Imagine stepping back in time to the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, around 2900 to 2334 BCE. This period, known as the Early Dynastic Period, was a pivotal era that witnessed remarkable cultural progress, the emergence of cities, the birth of writing, and the establishment of organized governments. Before we delve deeper, it's essential to understand the context. The Early Dynastic Period followed the Uruk period, which was a time of great significance. During the Uruk period, 4100 to 2900 BCE, the very first cities sprouted in Sumer, the southern region of Mesopotamia. These cities laid the foundation for the complex society that would flourish in the Early Dynastic Period. Importantly, the Early Dynastic Period was succeeded by the Akkadian period, 2334 to 2218 BCE, characterized by the conquest of Mesopotamia by Sargon of Akkad and the establishment of the Akkadian Empire. The term Early Dynastic Period was coined by the scholar Henri Frankfurt, inspired by the similarly named era in Egypt. However, it's crucial to recognize that Mesopotamia and Egypt developed differently. Unlike Egypt, which often had a single ruler uniting the land, Mesopotamia's city-states, such as Uruk and Ur, typically governed themselves independently. Consequently, cultural advancements, such as those we'll explore, could vary significantly from city to city. Before the Uruk and Early Dynastic periods, there was the Ubod period, c. 5000 to 4100 BCE. Unfortunately, this period remains shrouded in mystery due to the absence of written records. We know of the Ubod people primarily through their pottery and artwork. These early inhabitants of Mesopotamia had already transitioned from a hunter-gatherer society to an agrarian one, cultivating the land and forming small rural communities. The Ubod period set the stage for the dramatic changes that would unfold in the millennia to come. The Uruk period, named after the city of Uruk, marked the birth of cities in Mesopotamia. Here, urbanization blossomed, and monumental architecture became a hallmark of the era. Notable achievements include the construction of ziggurats, towering stepped pyramids that played a central role in religious life and were a testament to early engineering prowess. Cylinder seals, another innovation, became integral for sealing and authenticating documents and containers. Although the basic concept existed before, the Uruk period refined the cylinder seal into an art form. Writing, a pivotal achievement, began to take shape during this era, around 3600 to 3500 BCE. This early script, expressed in cuneiform, would evolve and become a cornerstone of Mesopotamian civilization. Around 3200 BCE, written language emerged, as seen in lexical lists. These lists were akin to scribal dictionaries, recording cuneiform signs and their meanings in Sumerian, Akkadian, and Hittite. The development of a governmental bureaucracy further marked the Uruk period's progress. This organized system would continue to evolve in the Early Dynastic Period, solidifying the foundations of governance in Mesopotamia. In summary, the Early Dynastic Period of Mesopotamia, 2900 to 2334 BCE, represents a pivotal time when cities emerged, monumental architecture soared, writing took its first steps, and organized governments began to take shape. These achievements, while not uniform across the region's independent city-states, laid the groundwork for the complex and dynamic society that would continue to evolve in Mesopotamia. In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, a land nourished by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, a new chapter of history unfolded during the Early Dynastic Period, around 2900 to 2334 BCE. Picture yourself amidst the transformation as we explore the fascinating journey of this remarkable era. Before the dawn of the Early Dynastic Period, a cataclysmic event shook the region. The rivers overflowed, unleashing devastating floods that swept from the southern plains to the north. This natural disaster, believed to have occurred around 2900 BCE, is regarded as the precursor to the famous Great Flood stories, such as the Eridu Genesis and the Atrahasis. These ancient Mesopotamian narratives eventually inspired the well-known biblical tale of Noah and his ark. Intriguingly, the Sumerian king list, a document from around 2100 BCE, traces the lineage of kings all the way back to Eridu, the first city founded by the gods. According to this list, Alulim was the initial ruler and remarkably reigned for an astonishing 28,800 years. Subsequent kings boasted similarly improbable reigns. Etana of Kish, a historical figure renowned for the myth of Etana, is recognized as the first king with a semblance of historical credibility. As cities flourished and cultures evolved, the establishment of a continuous line of kings from Eridu became a symbol of prestige and legitimacy. While the accuracy of these early kings' reigns is questionable, it is undeniable that they paved the way for the development of Mesopotamian cities. The early dynastic period witnessed the rise of city-states, and at the heart of these burgeoning urban centers lay a unique social organization, the household. Households were more extensive than nuclear families, comprising multiple members living together. They were essential units for both production and consumption, providing for their survival by crafting the majority of necessary goods themselves. These households were often associated with powerful entities, including the city's patron deity, the king, the queen, or individuals of significant wealth and influence. Within the household, land and assets were collectively managed. A structured hierarchy prevailed, with the king at the pinnacle, followed by the queen, who occasionally had her own household, priests of the city's god, the military, administrative personnel, skilled artisans, and unskilled laborers at the base. For the lowest stratum of laborers, life was grueling. Their wages, distributed as rations, typically consisted of barley, wool, and oil. However, there were disparities in these rations based on gender and status, with males often receiving twice the amount granted to females. Supervisors earned more than subordinates, specialized craftsmen outearned unskilled laborers, and so forth. Despite relatively equal rights for Sumerian women compared to their counterparts in other ancient societies, this equitable approach didn't extend to the lower classes. The hierarchical system, coupled with unequal access to resources, resulted in the underprivileged classes having fewer rights overall. As the early dynastic period continued into its second phase, known as Dynastic II, Mesopotamian civilization flourished. Cities expanded, technology advanced, and the household model remained a pillar of society. This stability enabled cultural growth and innovation, making it a period of significant progress. A complex division of labor emerged, freeing large segments of the population from subsistence farming. Skilled artisans, merchants, and individuals involved in cultic and administrative roles no longer needed to produce their food. Instead, they focused on the production of vital commodities, such as ceramics and metalwork. Precious gemstone jewelry became a symbol of affluence, and fine textiles, expertly woven by laborers, adorned the upper class. While these developments enriched the upper echelons of society and established lucrative trade items, the benefits rarely trickled down to the laborers who toiled to produce these goods. Workers, especially women, were subjected to physically taxing labor, such as milling grain and weaving cloth, often under oppressive quotas. The allure of urban life attracted more people from rural areas seeking refuge from raiders, slavers, and environmental challenges. In turn, rural communities faced increased pressure to provide grains and resources to the growing cities. The shift in climate, marked by diminished river water levels, exacerbated the situation. Amidst this dynamic landscape, a fundamental realization dawned: cooperation was paramount for survival. The Sumerians recognized the necessity of a united effort to manage irrigation, canal construction, water distribution, and resource allocation. These shared responsibilities laid the foundation for the development of governmental institutions and the rise of the Sumerian state. The collective reliance on irrigation fostered cooperation among individuals and communities. While Sumerians held individual achievement in high regard, the need for communal irrigation practices necessitated the establishment of powerful governing bodies. These institutions were instrumental in shaping Mesopotamian society, paving the way for city-states to thrive. As cities continued to grow and prosper, they began to compete with each other for resources and influence. This competition, driven by self-interest, would shape the region's history in the centuries to come. The early dynastic period of Mesopotamia was an era of transformation and growth, marked by the rise of city-states, innovative technology, and the evolution of social structures. The foundations laid during this period would serve as the bedrock for the rich and complex civilization that defined ancient Mesopotamia. As we venture deeper into the annals of Mesopotamian history, we arrive at the captivating era known as Early Dynastic III. During this period, two mighty powers, Kish in the north and Uruk in the south, would rise to prominence, shaping the destiny of ancient Mesopotamia. Step back in time with us to explore this era of dynastic struggles and legendary rulers. In the midst of this historical tapestry, we encounter kings whose exploits have left an indelible mark on the annals of Mesopotamia. Yet, the chronicles of these monarchs often present a baffling puzzle, with discrepancies that defy easy reconciliation. Among the luminaries of Uruk were legendary figures like Meshki-Angasha, Enmerkar, credited with founding Uruk itself, Lugal-Banda, Daimuzi, and the celebrated hero king, Gilgamesh. These rulers' reigns spanned the early years of the Early Dynastic period, circa 2600 BCE. Yet, intriguingly, historical records also associate them with earlier kings, such as Enmebrajesi, and later rulers like Enetum, who reigned from approximately 2500 to 2400 BCE. These discrepancies in chronology remain unresolved to this day. Among these illustrious monarchs, Enetum of Lagash emerges as one of the most ambitious and successful. Enetum, invoking the patron god of Lagash, Enlil, and the god of war, Ninurta, led his armies in a daring campaign against neighboring city-states. His conquests knew no bounds, as he successfully subjugated all of Sumer, including the formidable Uruk and Kish. Enetum's military prowess extended even further, as he marched against the Elamites, seizing vast territories from their grasp. By the time his campaigns concluded, Enetum had orchestrated the birth of Mesopotamia's very first empire, an empire predominantly composed of the city-states he had once ruled alongside. However, the glory of Enetum's empire proved ephemeral. Following his demise, his successors grappled with the daunting challenge of maintaining the newly formed dominion, ultimately proving unequal to the task. Yet, a remarkable figure would soon emerge to shape the course of history, challenging the legacy of Lagash. Intriguingly, among the rulers who purportedly liberated their cities from Lagash's dominion stands a singular figure, Kubaba, the only female ruler to grace the Sumerian king list. Regrettably, her origin and ascent to power remain shrouded in mystery. The king list briefly characterizes her as the woman tavern keeper who made firm the foundations of Kish. Kubaba's legacy extended beyond her lifetime. She achieved deification posthumously, and her cult would serve as the inspiration for the Hurrian goddess Hepit and the renowned Phrygian mother goddess, Matar Kubelia, venerated by the Ionian Greeks of Anatolia and Cilicia as Cybele. As the chronicles of Kubaba and Enetum unfurled, a larger-than-life figure loomed on the horizon, forever etching his name into the annals of history, Sargon of Akkad. His biography, though steeped in mythology, paints an extraordinary tale. Legend has it that Sargon's life began in obscurity. Born to a mother considered a changeling, he was secretly set adrift on the river in a reed basket, eventually finding his way to the city of Kish. There, the royal gardener Oki discovered him. As Sargon matured within the palace walls, he ascended to the prestigious position of cupbearer to Ur-Zababa, the reigning king. However, a foreboding dream experienced by Ur-Zababa changed the course of history. The dream suggested that Sargon posed a threat to the king's rule. Amid these ominous signs, Ur-Zababa dispatched Sargon as an emissary to Lugal-Zarghesi, the king of the city-state Umma. Whether sent with terms or with a sinister request to have Sargon killed, Lugal-Zarghesi was so impressed by the cupbearer that he disregarded the king's command and invited Sargon to join his campaign. Together, they marched on Kish and captured the city. Ur-Zababa fled, disappearing from historical records. Sargon, now at the helm, proclaimed himself king and subsequently went on to conquer all of Mesopotamia, heralding the dawn of the Akkadian Empire, the first multinational political entity in history. The Akkadian Empire marked the culmination of the early dynastic period. Sargon, despite the mythologized accounts surrounding his reign, owed much of his success to the groundwork laid by his predecessors. Sargon's legacy lay not only in his military conquests but also in his governance. He astutely appointed trusted officials throughout his empire, including his daughter Enhejanna, who became the high priestess of the Temple of Inanna at Ur and the first named author in history. Sargon's example influenced later empires, such as the Assyrian and Roman empires, in terms of cohesive governance. However, the foundation for such governance had been laid by the Sumerian kings of the early dynastic period. These monarchs established a society that, despite its complexities and rivalries, fostered the development of fundamental aspects of civilization, foundations that continue to influence the world we know today.